on my suit, and I felt like teaching on the subject rebellion, it was probably not great for me to take it off right away. So we'll at least wait till the end of this service. But as we, again, continue in this aspect of rebellion, a couple things just as a point of review, and then we'll get into some new material here this morning. I'm thankful to be able to speak to the subject of something that many of us will struggle with, and yet to speak to it with the subject or with the assurance that there is ability to overcome it and forgiveness of God when we experience it. And I know that rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. That's what the Bible likens it unto. It is not something that we should be really dabbling in any way, sort, or manner. And so we're thankful that we have Scripture to be able to understand it, to be able to define it, to be able to give us the insights that we need to see how we can avoid it. It's a negative reaction against God and those He placed over me, a heart of disobedience toward the commands of my God-given authority, as well as resistance to the ideas, desires, and requests of those that I am to submit to. And when we talk about this aspect of questioning authority, remember, we're not just dealing with the actual acts of rebellion, which is obviously easy for people to see. A lot of times we'll point out maybe a certain individual, and because of their lifestyle, because of the way that they're acting, because of their specific acts that they are taking part of, we say, man, that is a person who is struggling with rebellion. That's somebody who is rebellious. But many times, this aspect of rebellion is found in the heart. And even somebody who is completely compliant on the outside may still have an issue of rebellion on the inside. And I have found that when you deal with just the rebellion on the outside, you are not going to conquer it. It really works that way with any sin. Any sin that you just deal with the outward aspects of it, and when I say outward aspects, I'm talking about the manifestation of the fruit of what's going on inside the heart. When you deal with the outside, you're just like pruning the tree that you're trying to cut down. And if you're just getting out there with a little pair of hand snips and you're just chopping some of the branches off or the little twigs here and there, it's going to be a long time before you deal with that tree. What you need to do is you need to get not just the chainsaw to whack it down at the trunk. You need to get the excavator to get a big scoop and dig that joker out by the root system. Then you know that you are going to get rid of that tree. And that's the same thing with sin. We deal with the root of the issue. I know it's tempting so many times just to deal with just the outcropping of it, right? Is the way that if Jesse today says, you know what, Dad, I tell you what, I think it's your birthday, and so for your birthday, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slap you on your face. I'm going to say, Jesse, you're not going to slap me on my face. Yeah, Dad, I think it's a great idea. And he starts to whack me, and I just back up, and he swings and misses. I said, see, you're not going to slap me on my face. Well, I'm going to get you next time. You know, that kind of thing. I could deal all day long with the slap on the face, right? And I could stop him. I could tie his hands up so he can't slap me. You know, I could cut his hands off, and then he couldn't slap me. I mean, we could really go to drastic measures to keep him from slapping me. But is the real issue that he's going to slap me? The slapping part is just the outside. What the real issue is that he thinks on my birthday he should slap me on my face. That's the part that we're going to drill into and figure out, hey, why do you think that you should slap me on my birthday? Well, you used to do it to me all my years, so now I'm going to do it to you. You know, it's that kind of, so now we're going to act like Dad. I got it. But we got to deal with the heart of the issue. And so think about it today. When we're talking about this aspect of rebellion, we're not just talking about, yes, there is that open flagrant, and we see that from the life of Absalom. We looked at it last week, but there's also that hidden and inward part that we see from the life of Saul, and then even the aspect of Joab where we see there's a perceived loyalty, but there's issues with rebellion. Again, we've already been through this, so just going to kind of quickly review. With Absalom's open flagrant rebellion, he took over the kingdom from David for a short time. It was sparked by that personal pain. There was things that happened in Absalom's life that was not easy for him to deal with. A lot of it was against his own dad, King David. And in doing so, boy, that kind of helped create that spark for that fire of that rebellion. Then it was fueled by personal pride. Hey, I know best. Dad doesn't. I'm I'm king material here. I don't care if God's chosen me or not. I want to be the next king of Israel. And so I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take his kingdom. And then it was fanned by that personal pleasure. He just wanted praise of people. He wanted the people to just to look at him. And he was like, I want to be able to live that style of life that that a king gets to live. And we see those attributes that are contributing to Absalom's rebellion. Don't forget about Absalom's end, though. Absalom's end was very sad. Inward and hidden rebellion. We see the life of King Saul as he said, hey, you know what? I think I know better than what God commanded. I'll do what God said, but only to a certain degree. Then I'll put the rest of it in for what I want to do. And so he took part of the sheep and animals. He kept them back. He took the king. He didn't kill the king like he was supposed to. And boy, we ran into, again, some problems, right? The inward and the hidden rebellion that was seen in the life of Saul. He was blinded by his pride. He bought into pleasing people. Too many times is the pressure of others that causes me to then rebel. Because I think the pressure of others, I like them more. I want them to accept me. And so, you know what? My authorities, phooey on you, I'm going to follow suit with them. And boy, that creates so many troubles and so many problems. He based his actions on his personal priorities. And what was his personal priorities? Me, 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 me. Rebellion is such a selfish sin that takes place in our life because it's all about what I want. It's all about my life and me being able to do what I want to do with my life. Now let's look at this one, the perceived loyalty with times of rebellion. This was a challenge to me growing up. I want to show you a couple of these things. Look at, if you would, over to 2 Samuel chapter 3. 2 Samuel chapter 3. And we'll look at just a couple of the scriptures here. Again, you probably want to take the time at some point just to kind of read through the entire story. You'll get a better overall view and probably some more insights into some of these things. We're going to just hit highlights for the sake of time here this morning. In verse 22, the Bible says, behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop and brought in a great spoil with them, but Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace. Verse 23, when Joab and all the host that was with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he sent him away, and he is gone in peace. Then Joab came to the king and said, what hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away, and he is quite gone? Thou knowest, Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. And when Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah, but David knew it not. Now let me give you just a little bit of background here. Abner was King Saul's general, if you would. Kind of what Joab is to King David, Abner was to King Saul. And Abner followed King Saul. He was loyal to King Saul. He fought for King Saul. And so then one of the battles, because we know that Saul was after David and things of that sort, one of those battles, Joab's brother, I believe his name was Abishai, I think, if I got it right. If not, I'll find it here in just a minute. He was, or maybe it was Asahel. All right, I'm going to read it here in a minute. But anyways, his brother was following after King Saul, and he was a fast runner, and I'm sorry, after Abner, and Abner was on a chariot, and so he was running after Abner in a battle. He was going to kill him. And Abner said, look, man, you need to turn around. Go back. And he kept running after him. He kept following him. He said, listen, I'm telling you, you need to turn around. I don't want to have to kill you. And he just kept following him. So Abner ends up smiting him and killing him. Well, Joab didn't like that. Joab said, man, he just killed my brother. We got problems. Now, we're fast forwarding a little bit forward into time. Abner has finally realized that God has said no to King Saul and yes to King David. And so Abner has come to make a league with David. And he said, listen, I'll bring the rest of the kingdom with me here. We'll join you. We'll make you king. We'll let you be. And David said, okay, that sounds good. Well, Joab hears of it after the fact. And Joab says, oh, wait a minute. That's Abner. He killed my brother. He was with King Saul. David, you're getting deceived. And so, unbeknownst to David, Joab calls back to Abner and says, hey man, David wants you back, let's come back. Verse 27, when Abner was turned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly. and smote him there under the 5th rib, that he died for the blood of Asahel, there it is, his brother. And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever. From the blood of Abner, the son of Ner, let it rest on the head of Joab and all his father's house, and let not fall from the house of Joab one that hath an issue, or that is leper, lean, and so on and so forth. And so we see here this idea that Abner thought, you know what, I know better. And so, yeah, David's going to make a league with him, which I think the league would have been pretty prominent because there was a lot of people that still respected Abner that was following King Saul, and he would have been able to really unify the kingdom there in that situation. In fact, the situation almost took a really, really bad turn because the people that were still kind of on King Saul's side that were following Abner, when they saw Joab kill or heard that Joab killed Abner, they almost said, you know what, we're done with him, we're going to go find another king. And then David, he was wise in his actions, and he made such a big deal over Abner's death that the people realized David really wasn't a part of this. And so they said, okay, we're still going to come with you. And he was able then to take over the kingship of the entire nation of Israel. But Joab nearly spoiled that. Why? Because he had this personal agenda. I don't want Abner to be, first of all, another option for general. I don't want him to continue to live because he killed my brother, even though it was really in battle and his brother was the one at fault to keep continuing to follow him. And so even though I know what my king wants, even though I know what David wants, I'm going to go against him in this situation. And so subtly he said, you know, I'm going to take this into my own hands. And he does it. Look at chapter 14. This is kind of something that we see in the life of Joab throughout his situation, and some of it's a little perplexing, but the thing that I want you to be challenged with here today is Joab, for the most part, appeared to be a very loyal individual, a very loyal general to King David. I mean, many times he followed suit and he did what King David said. But then there were times when he just said, you know what, I know better, I'm a little bit smarter in this, and I will do as I see fit to do. And really what it depicts, again, is that heart of rebellion. We're in chapter 14, look at verse 1. And Joab, now Joab the son of Zeruiah perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. And we've already talked a little bit about this story with Absalom, how he took over the kingdom, and he used Joab to kind of get to the king, and this is one of the ways that Joab got to the king. And Joab sent to Tekoa, fetched there a wise woman, and said unto her, pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, put on now mourning apparel, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead, and come to the king and speak on this manner to him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. What is he doing? He got this woman to go before King David with a story. He said, here's the story I want you to tell her. And this is the way I want you to act, all right? She wasn't she hadn't been mourning. She hadn't had the loss or death of anybody. And so he said, I want you to dress that way. I want you to plead that way. I want you to come. And what is Joab's trying to do is he's trying to finagle a way to get David to see Absalom, to bring Absalom into his presence. And so he sends this woman over to David. She makes the plea. David says, you know, he relates a little bit with her. But then look at verse 19 and verse 20. And the king said, is not this the hand of Joab with thee in all this? And the woman answered and said, as thy soul liveth, my lord the king, none can turn to the right hand or to the left from aught that my lord the king has spoken for thy servant Joab. He bade me, and he put all these words in the mouth of thine handmaid to fetch about this form of speech. Hath thy servant Joab done this thing? And my Lord is wise according to the wisdom of the angel of God to know all these things that are in the earth. She starts to sort of say, you're right, yes, he is. He's the one behind this. He's the one that's told me this. You're so smart. David, you're amazing. Your wisdom is like the angel of God here, you know. Please don't kill me for whatever I have had a part in this. I think is kind of what is kind of going on there. But when you think about it here, again, Job's kind of undermined the king's authority and got this situation to occur. Should David have dealt with Absalom? He absolutely should have dealt with Absalom, but he should have dealt with Absalom when Absalom was an infant. and then when he was a child, and then he was a teen, and then when he was a young adult. There was a lot of things that David should have done in the sense of that. But here Joab is saying, all right, I'm going to take these things in my own hand. I'm going to find a way to get into King David. So look at chapter 18. And again, there's other situations and plenty of stories in between. Just trying to pick out a few that helps us to recognize this type of rebellion. And I think part of the disadvantage, if you don't know the story here this morning, make sure you go back and you read some of this, because part of the disadvantage you would have is Joab had so many times that he did show loyalty, that he did do as the king told him to do. So many victories that God wrought utilizing Joab and his army and things of that sort. But here in chapter 18, in verse 10, this is what the Bible says. And a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak. And Joab said unto the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, and thou didst not smite him there to the ground? And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle. In other words, you saw Absalom and you didn't kill him. I would have paid you very well if you would have done that. Notice what the man says in verse 12. And the man said unto Joab, Though I should have received 1,000 shekels of silver in mine hand, yet would I not put forth my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king charged thee and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Behold, thou that none touch the young man Absalom. Do you see what this guy's saying? He's coming to Joab, hey, I saw Absalom. He's hanging in a tree. He got caught by his hair. That's one reason anyways. But when you think about it, it's the blessing of losing your hair, right? You don't get there's not such a tendency of getting caught in a tree. You know, we're good on that, right? When you think about it, this guy helps set the situation right with Joab. Joab's saying, Lynn, dude, I would have paid you money. He says, listen, you could have given me 10 times that amount, and I still wouldn't have killed him. And you know why? Because the king specifically said to all of us, do not kill the young man. In case Joab hadn't heard, or in case he hadn't, in case he didn't already know that, which he did, this guy's reiterating that to him. And I think the blessing in this is you see the loyalty and a young soldier who is willing to be loyal to the king's commands, even though he's being offered a lot of money, even though he's being challenged by his general. He's still going above the general to say, hey, the problem is General King issued these commands, and he did it in a way for all of us to be able to hear it, right? All right, what verse are we on? Verse 14, Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. He took 3 darts in his hand, thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak. And 10 young men bare Joab's armor, compassed about, smote Absalom, slew him, and Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. They took Absalom, cast him in a great pit in the wood, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him, and all Israel fled, one to his tent. And we see, again, that scenario where Joab said, you know what, Absalom deserves to die. I will kill him myself. He knew what the king's command was, but he said, I know better. I'm going to take this in my own hands, and I'm going to do it. You know, I don't necessarily say that Joab doesn't have some ground to stand on. I mean, when you rebelled against your parents, yeah, there were certain consequences of it. It wasn't really supposed to be this way. But David had already issued the command. Joab said, nope, it's not good enough command. I will do as I see fit. So you see, once again, the perceived loyalty with times rebellion. All right, Brother Dean, if you give me control back, I want to keep going forward. He's trying. I should have it. Problem is, once you take control, it's hard to give it back. That's what it is. What's that? That's right. Sounds like perceived loyalty back there with times of rebellion, right? They're good at that. These things, they're wonderful when they work, and when they're not, they... Go ahead and advance it. Give me something to work with here. I already said that statement too many times. Can he advance it himself? Advance it again then. All right. Notice these things here. First of all, he reacted in revenge. He reacted in revenge. And what we're seeing here is why did Joab struggle with this aspect of rebellion? Why? What were some of the causes to help to kind of move him in that direction? As we saw with Saul, with people pleasing and pride, and as we saw with Absalom, the same thing with pride, and then the aspect of power and those other things, and even personal pain. Here we see with Joab, we see this aspect of revenge. You see, Abner killed his brother. The only thing I can think and the only thing I can see is that he killed my brother. I can't really see the bounds in which I'm supposed to operate, because for me, I'm gonna look past those bounds. I'm gonna ignore those bounds because there's some vengeance in my heart right now. And when there's vengeance in my heart, guess what? I'm gonna go against authority because of that sensation that I have that says, I deserve to do this. This is what's right. I need this. This is what should be done. And I want revenge on this individual. And it can be in so many different ways, right? With Joab here, it wasn't necessarily at this particular moment that he wanted revenge against David. He actually wanted revenge against Abner. But in order to make that revenge happen, he had to go against his authority that God had placed in his life to provide the structure to say, this is how it should happen. I mean, if you think of it in modern day terms, it's kind of the idea of somebody wants to kill somebody because of something they did to them, or something they did to somebody else that they loved. Right? There's bounds, there's structure, there are certain authority aspects that we have to follow suit in that has to govern that revenge, called the laws of our land. You don't have the freedom to just go out and say, you know what, this person deserves to die because of what they did here, here, and here, so therefore I'm going to kill them. Now, they can get arrested, and they can be tried, and they can go to court, and they can be proven guilty, and then they can have the sentencing from the judge. I mean, you have those bounds that can be worked within, but we can't take that into our own hands and go after that. What's going to happen? You do, then you're going to get charged with murder. Premeditated. First degree. And then you'll suffer the consequences of your rebellion, even though in your mind and in your heart, that was the right thing to do. I'm going to take vengeance on that individual for what they did. We have to be careful. That's why God said, listen, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. He'll repay. He'll take care of those situations. I'm not saying that you haven't been wronged in your life. Say we have to be careful when we are wronged, that we still see the structure of authority that God has placed within our life and remain under that and let God work. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. But it is necessary and it's important. It's something that we need to do. He focused on his authority's failures. This is probably the biggest thing that kind of hit me when it came to a time of rebellion that I had with my father. You know how I justified what I did? I justified what I did based on what I felt my dad was doing wrong. Let me just see. We have a lot of parents in this room. How many parents here this morning would say that I have been a perfect parent? Wait, I'm not putting my hand up. I have yet to meet a perfect parent. I have met many imperfect parents. In fact, every parent that I've met has been an imperfect parent. And I can tell you, as much as I love my kids, I haven't always done the right things. I haven't always treated them exactly the way that God wanted me to treat them. I haven't always given them the right statements or the right guidance and direction. I haven't always been the perfect father that they need me to be. And you know, as one under authority, looking at that imperfection, what that then does is it clouds my judgment as to whether or not I really should obey them, whether or not I really should submit myself to them. You know, and most of the time, even as a child or as a son or daughter, we recognize that our parents are not perfect, and so it's okay to a degree. But as soon as we are issued something that we're not in agreement with, it seems like that's when it pops up. Well, you know what? If Dad was really spiritual and right with God, he would know that this is what I should do. And instead, he's telling me I shouldn't. I don't think he knows right. I think he's missing the mark. I don't think he's hearing from God. And therefore, you know what? I think I'm just going to go forward and do what I think I should do. You know, I thought, this is right. I got this. I know what the Lord wants. He's not catching it. So therefore, I'm just going to go ahead and step out, and I'm going to work that way, that direction that I think I know. And you know, it was an important lesson, but it was kind of a tough lesson. Because when I stepped out, you know who got the brunt of it? Me. One of the principles we really haven't covered yet when it comes to authority is the protection that authority provides us with. Somebody likened it unto kind of an umbrella. You got an umbrella over your head and you step out in the rain, all the rain comes over here and over here and over here, and you stay dry. Theoretically, right? So I'm not blowing too hard. That umbrella gives you that protection. That umbrella is like that authority. Provides me with protection. As soon as I step out from under that, now I'm going to get wet. Now those fiery darts of the wicked one, boy, they're going to rain down heavy on me. And I'm the one that's going to suffer through that. And it's hard because it's like, but wait a minute, that's not my fault, it's my dad's fault. He's the one that messed up. If he wouldn't have done wrong, then I would be fine. And the Lord said, wait a minute. I can protect you under an imperfect father. In fact, here's the thing. Every authority in your life other than God is imperfect. Because they're human. There is no perfect authority figure. There is no perfect individual in authority. But God can still work through that. God can still provide protection. He can still provide guidance. He still can teach you patience. He still can guide your life in and through that. But you've got to trust in God on those situations. Because as long as we're going to focus on the failures of the authority, then we're also going to set ourselves up to know better. And then we're going to set ourselves up to do things that we feel is right, even when it's against authority. And now what we have just done is we have stepped over into rebellion. And I know that seems a little harsh to say, because we want to think of it as just, a little disobedience because we know better, therefore we're not going to do what they say. But it is rebellion. The other aspect of this is go forward. I'll have to find me another. He felt that he knew better. And I think I've kind of mentioned this in relation to some of the stuff we've already talked about. But we see Joab in that situation, right? We see him going, David, you're just so stupid sometimes. I know you're the king, but you know what? It's a good thing you got me. Otherwise, you would just be, And sometimes in the scriptures, sometimes Joab was like literally right. There was a time where David said, Joab, go number the people. And Joab goes, David, you know that God doesn't want us to number the people. No, I'm not going to go number the people. Joab, go number the people. David, that is not what the Lord wants. He doesn't want us to go number the people. He said to trust in Him. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about how strong you feel like you are and all these kind of things. David, we're good. Let's not do this. Go number the people. All right, fine. And then sure enough, consequences. God said, David, you should have numbered the people. Joab's going, I told you. I was right. Again. The problem with that, though, is what? then it starts to set himself up to think he's right later. And he wasn't right. And it's kind of weird because when you read the scriptures in some of those things with David, it says, I think in one of those cases where he numbered the people, the enemy moved him to number the people, and then it was so that God would have occasion against the people of Israel because they were being disobedient, rebellious. And so God was allowing some things to happen. The enemy was orchestrating some scenarios, and some of the consequences were coming in because of that. And here's the thing. One of the problems that I think we all have, and I know that I might be sidetracking just a minute here, but one of the issues I think that we have in this situation of rebellion, and when I'm talking about this perceived loyalty, in other words, you look like an obedient person, and then something goes on with your authority, and you're out of sorts with it, and then you change your mind. Some of the times when we look at that, we get into this situation, hey, he felt that he knew better. And when he felt that he knew better, he's saying, you know what? I've got this. I am going to be able to make these things right. I'm going to be able to do these things the way that they're supposed to be done. And we, in the process of that, we step out into a path that God didn't really design for us to be in. And when we're in a path that God didn't really design for us to be in, even though I looked the part, even though I acted the part, even though everybody thought I was, and in many cases, even in my own testimony with this aspect of rebellion, I mean, the truth of the matter is I did the majority of things that my father wanted me to do. And I respected him, and I followed suit with him. And yeah, there were some things that maybe I didn't disagree, but okay, we're going to go forward. We're going to trust the Lord in this and the kind of things. But then they're just got this point where it's like, but I know better now. I've got this. Until the Lord showed me you didn't. Boy, I had to step back and say, you know what? I may feel like I know better, but I'm going to trust God that He knows best. And that the Lord can work in and through my authority to help me in my life. And at the end of the day, I'll be able to honor and glorify Him for it and through it, more than if I just step out and kind of do my own thing. Be careful when you think you know better and it causes you to go against what your authorities are saying. Let's look further. Where are we at? The characteristics of a rebellious person. I don't have a lot of time left, so I'm not sure how much further I'm going to get. In fact, let's just do this. Let's stop there. How about that? No? Not a good idea? Say, well, if it's your authority and you're the one... Move the slide forward. Let me see if this is the short piece of section or if this is... No, this is going to be a... Actually, we can go through this kind of quick. First of all, here it is. This is what we see typically in a rebellious individual, all right? First of all, that they refuse to listen or to value the instruction of God. Again, we focus on those in authority, but we have to go a little beyond those in authority. We have to go above that, and that's God, okay? And if your relationship with God is in jeopardy or you have a problem there, you've got to start there when it comes to this aspect of rebellion. Again, as we deal with rebellion in the heart, a lot of times we're so focused on the specific area of rebellion that we're dealing with that we forget the bigger picture, okay? For instance, if I'm dealing with Jesse this morning as a rebellious son, Jesse, you and I are going to we're having this, right? We're going head to head and boom to boom. Thankfully, he's not there yet. Now, the other side over there is a different story, but and here we are. I mean, we're boom, boom. And it's like, okay, Jesse, you've got to obey me. You've got to follow me. I've told you these things and I'm doing these things. And this is, you are my son. I am your dad. And that's that. Right? The buck stops right here. How many have we've been in those situations? But you know a wise father? Son, how's your relationship with God right now? But what happens is I'm one in authority and you rebel against me, I'm hurt. And that hurt causes me then to just get so keyed in on just you and me that I'm forgetting what's the big deal. You know who put me in authority for Jesse? God. I'm not... I'm going to be Jesse's dad. Yeah. he's got to follow me all the time. He's going to do all that. No, no, no. The Lord gave me that responsibility. Since the Lord gave me the responsibility for Jesse, now I need to deal with Jesse's relationship with God so that him and I can have a good relationship. All right? So they refused to value or listen to the instruction of God. There's scriptures for you to look at. They rebelled against the counsel of the Most High. They rebelled against the commandments of the Lord. Children that would not hear the law of the Lord. Problems. All right? Go forward, brother. I'm giving up on the remote. All right? Again, just go ahead and hit all of them. That portrays a heart turned against righteousness. Again, where's the problem lie? Where are the there you go. The characteristics of a rebellious individual is again, we're looking at a heart that's turned against righteousness. I don't want to be righteous. I don't want to please God. Here's the problem is, I can't make you as a rebellious individual, I can't make your relationship with God right. You and the Lord have to deal with that. But I can tell you this, if you've got problems with the authority here on this earth, it's because you got problems with your relationship with God. And so do you want to be righteous? Do you want to serve Him? Do you want to please Him? And if you don't, then there's some other things that we have to deal with in that situation, because there's a whole other suit of problems. Rebellion is now coming out of that relationship issue that you have with the Lord. But for those that have a relationship with the Lord, listen, you've got to have yourself challenged, or you got to talk to yourself here in this situation. When you're challenged with those that are in authority over you, you need to say, do I want to be righteous? And if I want to be righteous, then when those in authority tell me something that I really don't want to hear, or they try to guide me in a direction I don't really want to go, you need to work it out with the Lord here, is the path of righteousness, because God uses authority. That's just what He designed. That's the principles He's established. So the heart turns against righteousness. All right, go to the next one. Characteristics of a rebellious person. Again, seeing the different stories that we've already looked at, exhibits an attitude of pride. We've talked about that, right? Pride and rebellion, they go hand in hand. Man, when you step out into rebellion, you know what you're doing? I am somebody. I don't know what you are, but you're somebody. And in your mind, you're somebody great, right? Because it's about me. It's about me. It's about my life. It's about my decisions, about what I want to do. It's what I... Now, even under the authority that you're currently under, remember, it's still God over top. And no matter what authority you find yourself under in the future, God is still the ultimate authority. And if you live a life of selfishness and a life of pride, you will be humiliated. You will be abased. Because that's something that God hates. He hates pride. He hates proud look. He doesn't want that to exist in our heart. It's so many times my rebellion, and not even, again, don't even deal with the actual acts of getting out there and creating, following through the rebellion. Just deal with the heart issue of the rebellion. Find the pride. Confess the pride. Get rid of the pride and humble yourself. And I tell you what, that aspect of rebellion, you will not struggle with. Is there another one of these characteristics of rebellion? Knows right, but chooses wrong. We saw that from King David. King David, he knew right, but he chose wrong. When David rebelled against God, when he committed adultery, he committed murder, he knew what was right. He said no. And sometimes it really does come down to that. I know that I shouldn't, but I'm still going to. Or I know that I should do what's right, and I'm not going to. What are you going to choose in this life? Right or choose wrong? Rebellion is wrong. Is there another one? Characteristic of a rebellious person. Nope, that's it. All right, so we'll stop there. And then we'll look at these insights into rebellion next week. All right, let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for these things that you have showed us here this morning from the life of Saul, Absalom, and especially Joab. And I pray that you would help each and every one of us with these insights into this sin of rebellion, Lord. I know it's something that displeases you, something that you're not honored and glorified with, something that every one of us are challenged with some way or another at some place or point in our life, and maybe even some here this morning that currently are dealing with this sin. I pray that you'd help them to see the seriousness of it. I pray that you help them to see the reality of it, the truth behind it, Remove the blinders. Lord, remove the short-sightedness. And help all of us to recognize that you are the ultimate authority that we need to honor and that we need to glorify. And Lord, through that, I know that your blessings exist far beyond what we could ever set ourselves up for if we got to make all of our decisions ourselves. Guide us with these things, Lord, and help us as we continue on here this morning. And this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for your attention. We're going to stand and stretch our legs for a minute, and then we're going to transition right into our next service here this morning.